Hi, I'm Ashley Healy. I work for Skills Development Scotland as part of the My World of Work live team. You'll be joined by my colleague Lindsay. Our job is to help you all understand the careers of the future and give you a wee taste of what those jobs could be like. So today's workshop is about games design. So we're going to be talking about hardware and software, and then later on you'll get to make your very own video game. So to begin, let's have a wee look at the world of computers and how computers actually make video games work. So this first image on your screen right now, this is the case of a computer, and this is where all the components would live. You can see there's various fans on it to keep all the components nice and cool, and they're being lit up by RGB lights. Very cool. These are all the components inside of your computer. So the foundation of every computer is the motherboard. It's the biggest circuit board and it allocates power to each component. It also distributes commands and it helps the CPU process those commands and distribute them to different components as well. So the CPU, you can see at the bottom there, it is the sort of square shape with the silver bit in the middle. That is the central processing unit. It is the most important part of a computer. It's where the computer processes different instructions and sends them to the different components. Inside of a CPU are tiny, tiny little switches, and those are the actual processors, and they basically turn on and off, and that is where we get binary code. The memory of the computer is what's called the hard drive, and it's also the RAM, which stands for random access memory. So the hard drive is where all of the really important data, like your video games and programs and saved data like images would live, whereas the RAM, that is where your unsaved games would live, your unsaved work on Microsoft Word. If you're using Paint and you hadn't saved your picture, then that would be on the RAM as well. As soon as RAM loses electricity, then all of your work that was living on there is lost unless you've saved it to your hard drive. And finally, we have the GPU. And this is the most essential part of your computer when it comes to video games. The GPU does a lot of really complex calculations and allows the visuals on your video games to actually come through and come together on the screen. It's a really, really interesting piece of kit. So what is a video game? Well, if those are all hardware and they're tangible, you can touch them. Software is called software because it's not tangible, you can't touch it, and it's quite easily damaged. A video game, much like various different types of software, is made up of code, art, and sound. As you can see on the screen here, we've got a couple of different examples of different softwares. We've got Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Microsoft Word, WhatsApp, Messenger, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. These are all different programs that are made up of code, art, sound, and sometimes a little bit of writing. And these are all different careers that come together to make these softwares possible. So I'm going to hand you over to Lindsay, who is going to show you guys how to make your own piece of software.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Lindsay. So I am just going to show you how to make your own computer game. So you should be on this website here, so it's arcade.makecode.com. Okay, and when you land on this website, you'll come to a page like this. Now you can see this is a really good website, it's got all different tutorials, but we are going to make our own game. So you can see this big orange box here, and it says new project. If we click on that, and we get the opportunity to give our project a name. Now, we are going to be making a little maze game. So I am going to call it Amazing Maze Game. You can name yours whatever you want. Okay. So it takes a wee minute to load, and you can see we land on a screen like this. So over here on the left-hand side, we've got what's like a kind of old school games console. Here in the middle, we've got a wee menu, so we're going to be using that menu quite a bit. And here on the right-hand side, we have got the bit where we're going to build our program. So we've got this wee block here, and you can see it looks a wee bit like a kind of jigsaw puzzle, but there's nothing inside it. It says on start. And basically what that means is when the game starts, this is what you're going to do. Now there's nothing in there just now. We've got a blank screen here, and that's because we've not put any commands in there. So first thing we want to do is we want to create our world, and the very first part of that is choosing a background color. So on this menu here, I want you to scroll down to the bit that says scene. So that's grey. It's got a little picture of a tree. If you click on that, and I want you to go to this third block, which says set background color to. So if you hover over that till you get a little yellow border, select that, and then you just slot it inside this block. And you can see we've got this kind of little grey oval here. Now, when you click on it, it comes up with a little palette. Okay, so it's like a little paint palette, and you can choose whatever background color you want. Now, you choose whatever color you want. I'm going to choose this kind of greeny color. Okay. So give it a minute, and you'll see once it's reloaded, that color appears on your background. So I've now got a really nice background color, but it's not the most exciting. So we need to create our actual world now. So you need to go back into this scene menu. Now you can see here, there's little subtitles under each part. So I want you to scroll down to this third kind of subtitle that says tiles. And right under that, there's one that says set tile map to. So again, select that and slot it inside this wee piece of code. And again, there's a little grey square. Now, when you click on this grey square, you land on a little page like this. So it's a little grey checkerboard. And again, nothing much happening there. So what we need to do is we need to build it. So you can see we've got these different tiles here. So these are the forest tiles. And you can go to the different section. You can get aquatic, dungeon, and you can get the kind of miscellaneous ones. And if you use these wee arrows, you can see some of the different styles. So first thing I want you to think about is what you'd want the walls of your maze to look like. Now I'm going to create a little forest scene, so I want to get myself some trees or some bushes. Okay, I don't like those ones, so I might go to miscellaneous. I'm going to get this little tree. Okay, so we've got these tools in the middle here. Now up here, the top left-hand corner, you can see the 3 squares. Now that is your brush size. See if you're on the smallest brush size, you can see when I hover over the checkerboard, that's only covering 1 square. And I take the middle one, it's covering, 3 by 3, so that's 9 squares. But we want to cover the whole checkerboard, so we're going to take this really big one, so it's kind of 5 by 5. Okay, so make sure you've got the biggest brush size and just cover your whole checkerboard with it. So no square left unturned. Okay, so your whole checkerboard should be covered there with whatever you've chosen to be your walls. So you can see that looks really nice. And see if you don't like it, just choose a different one and you can cover it over. Okay, so you might cover it up. You might think, nah, not for me. So we've got a lovely maze full of walls. Now we want to make a little pathway. So again, I'm going to go back into forest. I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose this little one with the flowers. Okay, now for your pathway, we don't really need big squares, no. So I think we'll just take one to mark the start point and end point, so the middle one. So we're going to have, I'm going to have my start point here, and I'm going to have my end point here. Okay, and then I want you to take the smallest one and make a path between the two. Now it's quite important, although we're on the smallest brush size, you should make sure that your path is 2 squares wide, because depending on what character you choose, they might get stuck. Okay, so trust in Ash just to check I've not missed any bits. Okay. And you can make this as complicated or as simple as you like. So we've got a fairly simple wee path there going from start to finish, but that would be a really easy maze. So now we need to add in some dead ends. So I'm just going to add in some wee bits to confuse the character. Okay, and if you go over any bits that you don't want to, which does happen sometimes, so you can see I've got that little extra square there. If you just go back to what you've got as your wall, and you can just cover it over. Okay, so easy fixed. And just I'm going to add in, I think, just a couple more dead ends. Okay, and take your time with this. This is quite a fun wee bit. I like this part, but it's up to you how you want yours to look. Okay, so yeah, we've got a nice pathway. We've got some walls, so that looks great. It's not too obvious though where it starts and finishes. So what I'm going to do now is I want to choose something to kind of mark start and finish point. So I'm going to choose this big rock to be the start. So I'm just going to pop that there. And for the finish point, I really like this treasure chest. So I'm just going to pop that there. Okay, so we've got walls, we've got a pathway, we've got a start point and an end point. So once you've finished making your maze, you can see down here in the bottom right hand corner, this little green button says done. So if we click that, it takes a little minute to load. But there we have it. So there's our little maze on our screen. Now you can see we've only got a corner of it and we can't really do much. Okay, and there's obviously no one in the maze. Okay, so now we need to get ourselves a little character. So again, here on this menu, this top part is sprites, and that's the word that this program uses for a character. So if we click on that, okay, in this very first block, it says set my sprite to sprite of count player. It's a really long one. Okay, so we want to slot that inside this little bit of code here. Okay, and again, nothing's happening because we've got this little grey square. So if we click on this wee grey square here, it takes us up to what looks like a checkerboard. Now you could draw yourself a character. That would take some time, but you can do it if you want to. Or you can go to gallery and you can see there's lots of pre-made ones. Now again, I would be careful here, so because some of the big ones do get stuck in the maze. I think that big donut gets stuck in the maze if you try and use that. But I'm going to choose, so I'm in a forest. So I'm going to choose this little puppy. Let's go through the forest. So you can see there's my little puppy there. And you can make edits. So I'm going to change his color to red, I think. So give him a little red collar. Okay, and once you've done that, if you click done, you will see, once it's loaded, there's a little puppy in the maze, but he's not moving, right? So he's not really that good. If he's not going to move through the maze, it's not going to be much fun because we've not put that into the program. So we need to add it into the program that we want these buttons to move the puppy. So this second part of the menu, which says controller, if we click on this, and again, very first block, move my sprite with buttons. We just pop that underneath the sprite block. Okay. And you can see, so there's puppy. Oh, he's moving. He's away off the screen though, and walking right through these walls. And you'll notice as well, he's not starting where we want him to start. He's starting about here. So that's not really how we want it to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place puppy on his start point. So this is in scene menu, okay? And you need to scroll down to the tile part, okay? So you can see tiles, okay? And if we scroll down, I think it's the 5th tile down, place my sprite on top of random. So we highlight that, bring it in. Okay, so we've got this wee checkerboard, it's got a little arrow, and it gives us this drop down menu. So these are all the different kinds of tile you've got on your game. So I've got my rock, which is my starting point. So if I choose that, and there we go. There is Puppy on the starting point. But Puppy is still walking off camera and he is walking through the walls. So we need to fix that. So I'm just going to make it so that the camera follows the puppy. So this is back into scene. Okay, and we're going to scroll a good bit further down now. So we're going to go down to this bit which says camera. And the third block under that says camera follow my sprite. So we take that and we place it into the maze, into the game, sorry. And yeah, so there's the camera following Puppy, but Puppy's walking right through the wall. So that is not what we want them to do. So what we need to do is we need to fix these walls so that the game knows Puppy's not meant to walk through them. So we need to actually go back into the tile map that we made. So if we click on that, So there's our lovely tile map, but we need to make some actual walls because as far as this is concerned, this is all just free range for characters to walk on. Now see here, we've got all these different tools. And so the bottom row, on the third one in, you can see what looks like a wall with a chunk cut out of it. So if we hover over that and click on it so that it goes red, now make sure you're on the smallest brush size here. And what you need to do is where the path meets the walls, make sure that is highlighted red. Okay, and don't worry if you make a mistake here. I will show you in a little minute how to fix your mistake. So you can see I'm not highlighting all of these tiles. It is just where the path is going to meet walls. So as long as the outside of the wall is covered, we are good. Okay. And again, I'm trusting Ash to make sure I don't miss any wee bits.
Good so far, Lindsay?
Good. So, there. Okay, so you can see that's my walls covered. Now, if you go over any bits that you don't mean to, so if I went over here, and I don't really need that. Now, see these tools here? We can see there's 8 of them. So we see this one's got the paint. If we go to the one beside it, that's an eraser tool. So if you click on that, and you can just erase any parts that maybe you haven't meant to highlight. But just make sure, so make sure any part of the path which is beside the wall, make sure those walls are highlighted. Okay, so once you've done that, click done. Okay, so nothing's changed here, has it? It all looks the same here, but watch now when Puppy walks, he cannot walk through the walls. Okay, so that seems to look okay. So let's see what happens when we take Puppy through the maze. Okay, so Puppy's getting caught in those dead ends. Right, and there's Puppy at the finish point. Yeah, so, but it's not doing anything. Okay, so Puppy's at finish point, it's not doing anything, the game's still going, I can walk him back and forth all day if I want. So we need to put something in here so that it knows what this means when Puppy hits that. So what we need to go is we need to go back into scene. And if we go down to the tile menu again, and it's the third block down, this big chunky block. Okay, so on Sprite of Kind player overlaps. So we take this one. Now this doesn't go inside the start block, just pop it anywhere else on the screen. Okay, and when it overlaps, what is your end point? So we want treasure chest. And we need to say what this means. So we're saying when the sprite goes to the treasure chest, we need to tell it what we want it to do. So what we want this to do is finish the game. So if we go into this purple part of the menu, third one down, it says game. We click on that, and it's the third block down, it says game over. So if we highlight that and pop it inside there, but we don't want it to be game over lose, no. We want it to be game over win. So slide that over. And we can add in a little effect. So you can have confetti. I like the smiley faces, but you can choose whatever you want. So watch now when Puppy goes through the maze. Okay. Yeah. So that means Puppy has won the game. So you can see there, in the space of a very short space of time, you have made yourself a little computer game. Okay, so you can see all these little blocks have created the game. And if you over here, we've got different sections. So if you actually hover over this bit that says JavaScript and give it a wee click, it shows you what it would look like in JavaScript. So it lets you have a look at how coding can be different in different formats. So well done, everyone. I think that's really good and it's a really fun activity. I hope you've all enjoyed it. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to pass you back to Ash, and Ash is going to talk to you a wee bit more about careers.
So thanks for joining us for today's session. As you can see from the screen in front of you, there are so many different careers in software and hardware development. You could be a games developer, a games designer, a games tester, a software engineer, a software developer, a web developer, a CAD technician, and so many more different careers. And you can find out all about them on www.myworldofwork.co.uk, And you can find out about apprenticeships in this sector at www.apprenticeships.scot. Thanks again. It was really fun having you guys.